Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session Building a Cloud Security Strategy with Actionable Threat Intelligence. I am Shilpa Sharma, and I will be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. Now, about our speaker, Sentil Velaytham. Senthil is an esteemed technical strategist who is celebrated for his adeptness in resolving business challenges and enhancing IT frameworks. Throughout his career, Senthil has effectively supported numerous clients in attaining their objective. He has cultivated strong collaborations with distinguished technology partners like VMware, Microsoft, Drua, AWS, Commvault, VM, Cohesity, Rubrik, EMC, NetApp, Cisco, Juniper Networks, Extreme Networks, HP, Nutanix, and others. Acknowledged as an advocate for cloud technology, cybersecurity, and data center practice, he staunchly advocates streamlining technical operations to optimize productivity. Leveraging his profound understanding of these technologies, he addresses complex integration hurdles with refined, efficient, and cost-effective approaches. Driven by a fervent commitment to innovation, Senthil consistently prioritizes team success, establishing himself as a key person of influence in both the technological and business spheres. Without any further delay, I would hand over the session to you, Senthil.
Thank you, and Shilpa. Hi, everybody. As you've already heard, my name is Sentil. I've been in the IT industry for the last 22 years. Over the years, I've had the privilege of working with some relevant SMEs and large enterprise organizations such as GlaxoSmithKline, Shell IT International, Hewlett Packard, Logicalis Australia, Commvault, Druva, and finally now I'm at VMware. I wanted to invite you all to go through the session again today with me. So we'll be talking through some of the key topics that I think is relevant in understanding about actionable threats. So without further ado, I want to walk you through about today's topic, right? So it's about building a cloud strategy with actionable threat intelligence. And it's a topic that resonates deeply with those who prioritize in safeguarding the digital assets in today's ever-evolving landscape. So the growth of IT technology has been meteoric, right, over the past years, to say the least. Ever since the first commercial computer, UNIVAC-1, which was released in June 14, 1951, IT's growth has been completely unstoppable. Us IT admins, though, always had it tough. They need to constantly adapt to the changes in the technology in order to be relevant, and also ensure that we understand what are the gaps and limitations to ensure that we can protect our IT environment from malicious individual, be it external or internal. The growth of cloud has not made it easy for us. No longer are IT environments limited to data centers or key silos or DMZ zones. The lines are blurred so much that the users are able to access data from any location. This has its advantages, of course, productivity, accessibility of the data, and etc. However, it also introduces additional challenges in managing these changed and evolved data sources, right? It's important that we understand how we can protect the data in the cloud in real time. And that is only doable, in my opinion, with actionable threat intelligence. In this session, I've outlined some of the key takeaways for today's session. So I'll want to go through that with them briefly with you before we go in for a deep dive. I'll walk you through on some of the key cloud security challenges by evaluating the evolving threat landscape. Why is threat intelligence important in securing the cloud? How can we integrate real-time threat intelligence into the cloud incident response framework? The ability to improve threat detection in the cloud through automation and advanced analytics. Last but not least, the proactive threat intelligence best practices for the cloud. So with that said, let's get started, everyone. And I hope you have a great session today. And we'll have the Q&A session towards the very end of this webinar. More and more organizations rely on cloud-based technology. Its growth has been primarily fueled by the growth of remote working. As a result, cloud computing is widely used in project management, development of new and modern applications, networking, and BAU operations of an organization. In the recent report published by the Cybercrime magazine, it was predicted that the total amount of data stored in the cloud, this includes the public cloud operated by vendors and social media companies such as AWS, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and etc., government-owned clouds that provide services to day-to-day consumers and businesses, private cloud and cloud storage providers will actually reach about 100 zettabytes by 2025. This will amount to almost 50% of the world's data at the current state. It's up by almost 25% from the total data that was stored in the cloud around 2015. By the end of 2025, the total global storage consumption of data in the cloud is expected to be around 200 zettabytes. It's then no big surprise when over 75% of businesses rank cloud security as their top worry, with 33% reporting that they are extremely worried, 42% are extremely concerned, and there's about 25% who are indifferent to somewhat concerned. In my opinion, I see that 25% as users that are either at the beginning stages of their cloud journey or are in the process of evaluating which workloads that they can migrate to the cloud. As such, the percentages of top worry and extremely concerned are only going to go up. As each organizations and individuals connect to the cloud, they bring along their most valuable commodity, their data. This could be their personal identifiable information or other sensitive corporate information. The proliferation of these data means that there are multiple endpoints that could be exploited by cybercriminals, resulting in data leakages or breaches if there are insufficient protection for the data. In the current age of automation and data explosion, we have appliances that are more connected to us than ever, right? Mobile devices, laptop, and even smartwatches have become a mini hotspot of personal and corporate data. Unfortunately, though, for the developers of these devices, security is often mostly not the primary consideration when they go through the development process. It's often an afterthought. Thus, it makes it susceptible to malware and zero-day vulnerability exploitation. From its predecessor, the Mirai botnet, which wreaked havoc in about 2016, to the more recent type of autonomous malware, which has the ability to think and adapt to its environment to avoid detection. The newer generation of AI-generated malware have several distinct characteristics, which makes life very challenging for the security professionals and IT admins alike. These capabilities are, but not limited to, the impersonation capability. The malware is trained with open source intelligence, which allows it to generate malicious code that resembles a recognized threat in the past. This makes it difficult to understand its payload and disrupt defensive strategies via false flags. Polymorphism, which allows the malware to automatically alter its code with each replication or infection of a device. Obfuscation techniques, right, where the malware encrypts its payload, lines of dead codes, and substitution of instructions in its code base. By doing so, the malware is able to conceal its true functionality and nature. Real-time adaptation, an AI-generated malware that is capable of learning and adapting its behavior based on the environment that it's on. And finally, the ability to preserve its malicious functionality. This is a malware that's able to preserve its intentions to cause harm despite constant changes in its code. It's like the movie Terminator, where the villain keeps traveling back in time to kill Sarah Connor and John Connor. The NSA considers cloud misconfiguration to be a leading cause of vulnerability in the cloud environment as well. Though the issue might seem a bit trivial, it opens up to a whole another new problem, as cloud misconfiguration are often tough to detect and requires manual remediation. In a study commissioned by Metric, the IDC surveyed around 300 senior IT professionals who are decision makers in the US across banking, insurance, healthcare, government, utilities, manufacturing, retail, media, software, and pharmaceutical industries. The size of the organization ranged from 1,500 to more than 20,000 employees. The report identified that over 79% of the companies have experienced at least one data cloud breaches in the last 18 months. 43% reported that they had 10 or more breaches. And the top three cloud security threat is security misconfiguration of the actual production environment, lack of visibility into the access control of the actual production environment, and improper IAM and permission configuration. Some of the most common misconfiguration issues in the cloud are unrestricted inbound and outbound ports, secrets management. This is where how the API keys and passwords and encryption keys and credentials are maintained. Disabled monitoring and logging. It's very common when a pilot environment suddenly turns on to become a production environment and someone just assumed that logging and monitoring are enabled. ICMP left open, insecure automated backups of the environment, unlimited access to non-HTTP and HTTPS ports, storage access, overly permissive access to virtual machines, containers, and hosts, enabling too many cloud access permissions, and subdomain hijacking. These security misconfiguration and data breaches are related to credentials often lead to lateral movement of bad actors. Lateral threat is when a bad actor gains access to the cloud environment via a compromised credential and slowly elevates the access within the compromised environment through privilege escalation. There are essentially three phases in the lateral threat movement, right? So the first phase is the reconnaissance phase. This is the initial stage where the bad actor will sneak through any publicly available information, such as credentials that could be obtained through the dark web or through any data mining website, right? Bad actors could also use social engineering to collect confidential information in order to gain access to the system. Now, credential dumping and privilege gathering is the second phase. At this stage, the bad actor has already gained access into the environment and is moving through the network laterally with minimal or no detection at all. Information that was obtained via social engineering or data mining also becomes useful here to slowly gain additional privilege in the environment. Gaining access to other communication and computing points, that's the third and final phase, is when the bad actor already has sufficient privileges. They'll be able to gain access to sensitive information and be able to bypass any existing security controls that are in place. At this point, they can either choose to completely compromise the entire organization, or they choose to remain incognito. They do not want to do anything, but they will slowly steal all this corporate information, and they could use that and sell that to the public or any competitors of that particular organization. Some of the noted examples of AI-generated malware attacks were the Forest Blizzard, you might have heard it, also known as the Fancy Bear. It represents one of the most notable examples of AI-generated malware attacks in the recent years. This group was linked to the Russian state-sponsored hacking activity that has carried out highly targeted phishing campaigns across multiple continents. To date, they have attacked almost 9 countries. This group uses highly advanced AI technique to create a convincing phishing email that impersonates government documents, which are either publicly available or also using internal files. By deploying a custom backdoor, once the tool has established its persistent connection on the user's machine, they can quickly exploit vulnerabilities and launch attacks within hours of landing on the machine. The other one is the Emerald Sleet, also known as APT43, involves the adoption of complex multi-stage attack chains. It's a North Korea-linked threat group that uses AI, and to make it more interesting, they use legitimate cloud services to conduct cyber espionage and financial crimes. The attack chain includes the use of .NET codes, the LNK files, the link files, and also PowerShell scripts. The use of Dropbox and Google services throughout the attack allows the malware to blend into any normal traffic. In addition, each stage of the malware is also encrypted with AES encryption, which reduces the chances of it being detected by network or any file scanning security software that are often deployed in the organization. The other one is Crimson Sandstorm, which is a state-sponsored threat actor that is associated with Iran. This group targets Mediterranean-based organization in the maritime, shipping, and logistics sector. In the most recent attack, recently, it compromised legitimate websites to deploy malicious JavaScript codes that collects information such as location, device time, and time of visit of users. If the visitor of the site matches their targeted profile, it deploys a more advanced payload in the user's machine. This targeted malware then deploys what is called an app domain manager injection, which allows the malware to evade detection from traditional security tools, which are often deployed on Windows machine. As you can see, there is a pattern that's developing here, right, which is very hard to dismiss. Traditional security protection tools are no longer effective against the modern AI-driven attacks that uses legitimate cloud microservices. These malware are able to masquerade as genuine traffic that is often seen in normal and legitimate software. Hence why threat intelligence plays a crucial role in addressing these challenges. It offers administrators and cybersecurity experts insight that they need to protect against this emerging and evolving threat. Threat intelligence is the process of collecting and analyzing information about potential threats that your organizations might face. It arms your security team with the necessary information to detect, respond, and mitigate malicious threats effectively. The process of threat intelligence can be best understood through what we call the threat intelligence cycle. The image that you see here on the screen represents that. Each phase collectively contributes to a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. We'll go through each of them briefly, right? So the first stage of the threat intelligence cycle is planning. At the planning stage, you will define goals and objectives of your organization's threat intelligence activity based on this requirement. And it's unique for each and every organization, right? At this stage, you'll be able to identify the key stakeholders with whom you'll be sharing the intelligence and how you'll be able to achieve that. You'll also establish the intelligence requirement that is catered to your organization at the operational level with a focus on current and also future threats. As part of the planning phase, you'll also be required to determine the key objectives of the threat intelligence program. The objectives for each organization will greatly vary, and in most cases, there's no such thing as one size that fits all scenario. You'll also be required to prioritize the workload that you want to protect. So you have to determine which is your crown jewel that you want to protect based on this, right? Following the activities above and providing that you have implemented them correctly, you'll be able to identify any gaps in the current threat intelligence, if any, and prioritize in addressing these gaps. Once you've completed the planning phase, you'll be able to move on to the data collection phase. The collection stages focuses on gathering information to address previously defined intelligence requirements. This involves identifying relevant data sources and storing the collected information. Methods that you can use would be to analyze security tools the logs generated by those security tools, leveraging commercial or open source threat feeds, consulting knowledgeable individuals, exploring open source intelligence or OSNet, sources like blogs or news, scrapping data from social media or even forums, and sometimes also even navigating dark web channels. It's important to recognize that no organization can collect all possible data. That's the hard facts. The operational environment, it will be shaped by cultural, technical, and geopolitical factors, and it dictates the accessible data sources and visible threats. For example, a security firm in Australia will encounter different threats than the one in Europe. As data moves through the intelligence lifecycle, the usable subset of the data narrows, resulting in smaller volume of actionable intelligence. In the structure and enrichment phase, which is often referred to as processing stage, it is the process of transforming raw data into a usable information for analysis by organizing and structuring it. This involves cleaning up irrelevant data, normalizing it for storage, and verifying its legitimacy through trusted sources. While modern tools like SIEM or EDR solutions automate much of this process by converting logs into human-readable formats, administrators should still be capable of manual processing if needed. Proper processing is essential because, as the adage goes, you've probably heard this, garbage in, garbage out. Flawed data leads to flawed intelligence and insights. The analysis stage converts the gathered information into actionable intelligence to guide the organization's defense or strategy. Administrators use the expertise to identify patterns, interpret trends, and derive insights to make an informed decision, such as blocking indicators, addressing security gaps, or investing in technology or training. The ultimate goal is to understand the nature, scope, and implication of identified threats. Structured analysis techniques, right, such as the diamond model or the cyber kill chain, can assist in this process. But the administrators must remain vigilant against biases that could affect their judgment. The dissemination and deploy stage involves sharing the actionable intelligence with the right stakeholders promptly and effectively. Even the best intelligence is useless if it's not communicated to the appropriate audience in a timely manner. Time is crucial, right? To ensure its success, administrators need to plan ahead by identifying the relevant stakeholders, determining the type of intelligence they need, and selecting suitable sharing channels such as email, messaging platform, or even presentation. Tailor the content to the audience. For example, indicators of compromise are relevant to security operations center, right? And they're not that valuable to a CISO. Automating dissemination, such as uploading the indicators of compromise to SIEMs or templates, enhances its efficiency and also ensures a timely delivery of those information. Effective dissemination is key to making the actionable, the intelligence actionable. I've included the feedback stage together with the first phase, which is planning. Right? In my opinion, any feedback that's received, be it good or bad, will require the administrators to reevaluate their strategy and reassess the planning, right? And it's a continuous loop, rightly so, right? Because the feedback stage is often overlooked in the threat intelligence lifecycle. However, it's essential for continuous improvement. It ensures the cyber threat intelligence efforts are effective and valuable at both the operational and at the strategic levels. Feedback helps to assess whether the shared intelligence is actionable, relevant, timely, and if processes can be improved with automation or new tools. And obviously, this will require you to replan again your threat strategy. The two-way communication between the cyber threat intelligence team and the stakeholder is very crucial for understanding how the intelligence is going to be used, and also identifying areas for enhancement, ensuring the intelligence consistently meets the organizational needs. The threat intelligence cycle is used by many organizations all over the world. It doesn't matter if your size of the organization that you're working in or you're involved in is small, or whether you have a small IT team or with the smaller IT budget, right? Uh, Threat intelligence cycle is a model that you or your IT team can use to structure or implement a new process. We have spoken in depth about cybersecurity challenges, right? And the role of threat intelligence plays in the cloud security. Let's go through briefly what are some of the key building blocks of a good cloud security strategy. Automated threat response tools. Holiday breaks are the times when almost everyone takes the time away from work to get some well-deserved rest. Guess who else knows the simple truth? Right? Cyber criminals. Holiday break means unstaffed IT teams. Regardless of the technology and the processes that are in place, the human factor is fundamentally the weakest link when it comes to your organization's cybersecurity defenses. Following a study done by Verizon in the 2024 Data Breach Investigations Report, there is a 30% increase in the average number of ransomware attacks over the holiday period when compared to any other months in the year. How can we prevent this? Using a combination of security orchestration, automation, and response, or SAW tool, can help automate responses to the security incidents and events. A SAW tool has the capability to automatically respond to bad configuration, detect misconfiguration, and fix them automatically. It also can help with the entire life cycle of a threat management, right from the detection to the response, thus reducing the incident response time and improve the accuracy by automating repeatable actions. Integration of SAW-based responses to a backup product will also help prevent administrators from using a bad copy of the backup that might contain an infected data. A SAW tool that is integrated with the backup will be able to automatically pull out a bad backup cycle, finalize the prior backup copy as read-only to ensure its integrity, quarantine the current backup copy so that it's not used, and alert the administrators of the bad copy without any user intervention at all. Now, all this is done while the IT admin is on leave. Meanwhile, a cloud security posture management, the CPSM tool, can complement by helping to monitor and flag any vulnerabilities in the environment. Cybersecurity governance forms the foundation of organizations' defense against cyber threats in the cloud. It offers comprehensive framework of policies, processes, and strategies that can be used to protect sensitive information. It ensures the regulatory compliance, supports the resilience of business operations, and aligns cybersecurity initiatives with organizations' overall objectives. Effective governance policies establish clear roles and responsibilities. It defines risk management practices and provides a structured approach to identifying, mitigating, and responding to cyber threats across the organization. By fostering a culture of accountability and continuous improvement, cybersecurity governance not only safeguards the digital assets, but also strengthens trust among the stakeholders, right? It ensures the organization is prepared to navigate an evolving threat landscape. As such, adherence to the governance policies such as GDPR, HIPAA, personal identifiable information, CCPA, IRAP, and etc. are important for organizations. Non-compliance to these governance policies could result in other organizations to stop collaborating with you or even wanting to even talk to you in the first place. Identity and access management plays a critical role in preventing cyber attacks. You have heard me say this more than once, right? Humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity management chain. Identity and access management, or IAM, encompasses the policies, procedures, and technologies that an organization use to manage digital identities effectively. As the cornerstone of an organization's cybersecurity framework, digital identities play a crucial role in authenticating users, systems, and entities to ensure appropriate accesses to the resources that they need. Given their importance, digital identities are often a primary target of threat actors during a cyber attack. To mitigate the risks and maintain security, organizations must regularly evaluate, when needed, update their IAM framework to stay ahead of evolving cyber threats and ensure robust access control. Finally, the robust identity and access management, IAM capabilities, implement the policies and control outlined by the industry standards such as ISO 27001 and the Essential 8. By adopting the best practices, which includes the principles of need to know and the least privilege, organizations can minimize the risk of security incidents caused by malicious actor or accidental insider actions. We talked about lateral threat attack earlier, right? So if a user does not have the permission that he does not require to do his work, that's the best way to go. So that's how lateral threats are also prevented. It's a gold standard, right, for maintaining best security practices. These solutions play a vital role in reducing the IAM-related security risks and also enhances the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the organization's data. Last but not least, a tailored incident response plan, IRP, is important for preventing cyber attacks in the cloud because it helps the organization in the following way. It allows the organization or the IT admins to respond quickly, which can help minimize damage and getting things back to normal as soon as possible. Essentially, it helps to reduce your recovery time objective. It also helps you to protect the data. By having a tailored incident response plan, an organization is able to protect the data by establishing a data recovery strategy, where you'll be able to define your retention period and your backup iterations. This will help them to prioritize the protection of the most valuable asset, which is the data. A tailored incident response also ensures that the organization is able to maintain its public reputation and also customer trust by preventing any security breaches or also data loss. And on the on-side of, if there is a data breach, by having a tailored incident response, you'll be able to craft a relevant media update to the public so that the media is constantly informed of what's going on in the organization. So it helps to build trust either way. It also allows you to learn from any incidents in the past. A tailored plan can help you to learn from past incidents, incident report that's provided by other organizations, or even a write-up by any other security consultants, right? So they can then improve the resilience of the cyber threats in the future. A tailored incident response plan also helps the organization keep a record of important evidence, which can be used for legal and regulatory reasons. These strategies are not exhaustive, in my opinion, but they're the ones that I believe are the fundamental in ensuring a robust cloud security posture. What are some of the options that's available to organizations to integrate threat intelligence into the cloud security? Integrate SAW and SIEM tools with your cloud environment. SAW, right? Security orchestration, automation, and response. It's a tool that will help you to streamline and automate response to security incidents, thereby reducing the time that it takes between detection and remediation. By integrating SAW with cloud environments, the organization can automatically respond to threats based on predefined workflows and also use cloud-specific data to fine-tune the security measures. SIEM, security information and event management. It's a tool that allows you to aggregate and analyze security events from multiple sources in real time. By integrating it to your cloud environment, it allows the organization to have a centralized view of the cloud security posture, correlate any events across all the cloud platforms or all the other VPCs, and quickly identify any anonymous activities that may indicate a security incident. Leverage and combine existing tools with cloud-native security monitoring tools provided by the cloud vendor. Now, this is key, right? Cloud is an evolving, it constantly has an evolving services that they constantly release to keep themselves updated. So traditional security tools are not able to keep track or keep up to speed with what's coming. So it's best for you to use the best of both worlds. You have your on-prem tools, and a lot of times cloud providers also provide you the ability to integrate their security tools that is used to monitor their native security services with your tool. So combining that allows you to use the best of the both worlds. So you can use those cloud native tools to enhance the visibility, detection, and also response capabilities. By then, you benefit by using those specialized features, right, which offers a more robust security posture as it encompasses both your on-premise and also cloud resources. Use AI to filter any white noise and also prioritize. This allows you to automate the correlation of IOCs, the indicators of compromise. Cloud environments generate vast amounts of security data, much of which may be irrelevant or white noise. AI and machine learning can help you filter this noise by identifying patterns and prioritizing data that is most likely to be indicative of a security threat. This can significantly reduce alert fatigue by focusing on actionable events. And additionally, you don't need a large cybersecurity team, or you can just do away with 3 or 4 people. Furthermore, AI can also automate the correlation of IOCs, such as suspicious IP addresses, file hashes, or unusual login patterns across various cloud systems, enabling faster and more accurate detection of potential threats. You could also leverage internal and external intelligence feeds from multiple sources. Threat intelligence feeds provide valuable insights into emerging threats and vulnerabilities. By integrating both internal intelligence, i.e. Logs, incidents from within the organization, with external intelligence, i.e. threats, feeds from commercial vendors, industry groups, or public databases, organizations can build a more comprehensive understanding of their security landscape. Combining the feeds allow you to identify new attack vectors and also strengthen the defense by providing a broader context for potential threats. Enabling real-time alerts that will detect and also block credential compromise. By effectively implementing these integration steps, organizations can create a robust and adaptive security framework for their cloud environment, enabling quicker detection, response, and remediation of threats. Finally, last but not least, what are the next steps, right? What are my asks for this today? So I'd say there's our call to action. I'd ask you to invest into a cloud security tool that is able to leverage AI and SOAR to automate and enhance your response. Conduct a threat assessment with your cloud provider or technology partner to identify any gaps that you might have in your environment. There's always room for improvement, so build a continuous culture of continuous learning and adaptation. And also to continuously update your threat model and refine your security processes as your cloud consumption changes. That, I think, is, I'd say, my call to action for you guys after the webinar. Or, if not, at least you guys had a basic idea of why threat intelligence is important in securing your cloud workloads. And with that said, thank you. Shilpa and Nitika, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sentil, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. We found the webinar very engaging and hope it was valuable for you as well. Before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council CCSE program. EC Council is launching a first of its kind cloud security program, the Certified Cloud Security Engineer certification, a hands-on certification course designed and developed by cloud security professionals. The CCSE adopts a detailed and methodological approach to teach fundamental concepts in cloud security. EC Council CCSE program combines vendor-neutral and vendor-specific cloud security concepts to offer aspiring cloud security professionals an unbiased learning approach. Benefits of the CCE course include help learners design and implement the business continuity and disaster recovery plans in the cloud, demonstrates best practices for securing cloud infrastructures, uses security orchestration, automation, and response (SAR) for incident response, instills knowledge and skills with hands-on labs. If you're interested in learning more, please participate in the poll that's going to be conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training and we will reach out to you soon.
Yep.
So, Sentil, shall we start with the Q&A?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So, our first question to you is, how can threat intelligence support cybersecurity threat modeling efforts?
So how can so what was the question again? How can threat intelligence support developing
Cybersecurity threat modeling efforts.
right? So so we've gone through that cycle, right? The threat intelligence cycle. So that's how you model your cybersecurity efforts. So essentially, you go through the phases. Those phases will help you to process and model that tool, into your tool. So you could either use your SAW, or you could either use your SIEM, or you could use any tools that you have available from your organization, and you can use that model because that model is an iterative model that can be used across the organization. So that model will help you to go through the planning phase, the assessment phase, and the analysis phase. Once that's done, you go through the phase where you actually implement that, and then you request for feedback based on the on the rules that you deployed in, and then you could go back into the assessment mode as well.
Thank you, Sentil, for answering that question. Our second question to you is, today, many online password checker sites are available when anyone check his or her password from online sites. So is threat any risk the password is breached or not, because password is stored in server or not, and how to prevent this type of attacks?
That's a great question, right? And I tend to stay away from those sites just by pure practice and also thought process, practice and also analysis. I've done way back, a while back, we've done some research paper with a couple of colleagues on this. So essentially, when you actually type in those passwords to check the strength of your password, that password is actually stored in the database where it's analyzed. So if you're actually changing a password in a legitimate site, where it says the password needs to comply to those standards, I think that's all right because it doesn't store the password. But the ones where there's actually websites where you go, you can actually type in your password, and then you can check whether your password's secure or not. Those are the sites that I avoid. That's essentially something that you don't want to do because that password is actually kept in a database, and that's what we call data mining. I'd suggest for those guys, I suggest that, and it's becoming a best practice across organization, to have a password manager. So the password manager is actually offsite. It's actually a container by itself, where you're able to store all your key relevant passwords because your password, and it's also able to generate complex passwords randomly as well. So that's my suggestion. And a lot of organizations are actually forcing that now to individuals because they know that they've got few systems and that those few systems require you to have complex passwords. And the best way to do this is to have a password manager.
Thank you, Sentil, for answering that question. Our third question to you is, what are the best practices from threat intel perspective to safeguard against internal threats?
Right. So it's a bit of a gray area, right? Because it's difficult to identify a specific individual, but what they do now within organization, we talked about this in the presentation as well, is to use just-in-time access credential. So or the least privileged passwords, right? So the user has a password or needs access to a specific app, he can go to a portal, and that portal he'll be able to pick and choose his relevant access that's required to perform the task, and it goes through an approval process. So there's actually his direct line manager, and then goes to the security team to approve that request. That's one, right? So that way you can check whether that individual necessarily requires access to the tool. And then once his line manager approves that request, it goes to the security team who do an additional validation. That the other aspect of it is also that kind of like least privilege. So you don't have a super admin. Gone are the days where a user is essentially a root user. You have access to a specific app, and that's it. Those are the ways that you can use to prevent lateral threats. Additionally, the use of SOAR tool, the use of threat intelligence within the tool. So you'd be able to check if a user is constantly trying to crack a password or trying to access a tool that he doesn't need to, or is browsing a site, or trying to modify some additional credentials, or changing some folder structure and all that stuff. So all that gets flagged, and then it gets sent off to the SOC team to analyze. So these information are not visible to the user, but it's visible through backend to the SOC team. So having those internal tools helps you to generate that intelligence, those alerts, and the SOC team can actually verify those alerts and then reach out to the user and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you doing X, Y, Z? In most cases, it could not be that it won't even be an user. It could be a compromised machine that's trying to do masquerading as the user. So that will help you to prevent lateral threat within the organization.
Thank you, Sentil, for answering that question. Our next question to you is there an all-in-one tool for conducting security assessments for the cloud?
Unfortunately, no. For example, right, and we talked about this earlier as well, is that the security model for fundamentally, it's the same. It goes through that same cycle, but each and every organization would have different criteria and requirement. So manufacturing industry might be different from a retail industry, right? And the type of data or the application that they use will also be different. So there's no one size fits all. So it's unique, and that's why you have to go through that model, right? So you have to talk to your stakeholders, you have to identify the data that's important, and you have to prioritize how you're going to protect those data. So it's unique, it's different, but you can still use that model to build a robust threat intelligence security model. But I'd have to say it's unique for each and every organization. You could probably get some best practices maybe from your vendor. Say, for example, if you're using a virtualization vendor, you can talk to the security team, ask them about the best practices. They'll give you some rough idea, and I suggest all my customers that I work with to do that. We do that kind of consultation with my customers as well. But then we give them the framework, and then they'll be able to customize it according to what they need.
Thank you, Sentil, for answering that question. We'll take last two questions for the day. Our next question for you is, small organizations are just as much a target as larger ones. How can small companies with fewer resources and maybe budget deal with such sprawl of applications needed to maintain security? With so much, can you give top 3 things every small business that are SaaS only should implement?
Right. So if you're using predominantly SaaS-based services, so we talked about Osnet, right? So you can use an open source database where it's actually validated as well. So you could funnel that into your tool. So there are a lot of tools that you can use. It's accessible with limited budgets that you can run. So you don't need to spend a lot of data. So you don't need to buy Splunk or all the massive tools. SOAR tools are out there. So you can use the ones that are open sourced, that are also maintained by a group of users legitimately. You can, if you're using SaaS, I'll also encourage you to talk to your SaaS provider. So these SaaS providers will have additional services that you could turn on to provide additional information, logs, security tools. So this is you trying to leverage the existing native tools that they provide rather than you investing into your own tool. So I know AWS provides that, I know Azure provides that, I know GCP also provides that as well. They've got tools to monitor the microservices, and they've got a cloud dashboard that you can actually look and view what are those incidents that's going on within the organization. So this looks at credential compromise, this looks at abnormal user workloads, this looks at open APIs within the code that you're deploying, any unused ports that you have as well. So it does a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of avenues for SMEs as well to go and leverage actionable threat intelligence.
Thank you, Sentil, for answering that question. An audience have sent message for you. Thank you, Sentil, for excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you
So,
guys. Thank you so much.
yeah. Our last question to you is, what are the best practices for developing and implementing proactive threat intelligence for the cloud?
So proactive threat intelligence for the cloud, right? So if you're building an app, so let me understand. So if you're building an app, so you got to use a proper software lifecycle management, right? So a lot of times we find if you're building something internally, you'll have to go through your CDCI process. You have to go through a software development process, where we find that a lot of times when you build something through microservices, you sometimes, or your app developers or external third-party developers create backdoor access. These backdoor access allows them to do support work for the workload, for the environment, but it also creates a backdoor that's only known to the third-party provider. So there's been few organizations that have been completely compromised where they've got a backdoor that's an open API and it's just listening. So it's essentially like you've got your entire house closed up, grilled up, but you left your back window that only a certain third-party provider knows open. And it's actually saying, hello, I'm open, you want to access my data. So these kind of backdoor access, they essentially, someone can craft an API request, they can just funnel out all your data. So proper lifecycle management of those apps that you're developing, and also adhering to those best practices policies, right? Going through those lifecycle management processes. I hope I answered your question. If not, you can post it up on Reddit. And I can probably take a look at that further.
Sure. Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Sentil, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared with our global audience. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you, Sentil. Before we conclude the webinar, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Sure. I guess, guys, I hope everybody found the session useful, and I'm very thankful to EC Council as well that they've allowed me to be able to come and interact with you about the topic. I think having a right threat intelligence tool within the organization is key in protecting your cloud workloads, and it's essential because the growth of cloud is just going to grow. So having the right tools in place, having the right actionable threat intelligence information in place will help you to protect your workloads. And thank you again for EC Council for the time and allowing me to present this to your audiences.
Thank you so much, Sentil, for appreciation and for the message to our audience.